Welcome to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to absolutely not make any dumb jokes about today's story. Not at all.
Nope, not the time for it. Even we know where to draw the line. And today's news, it's not really a laughing matter.
The Department of Fair Employment and Housing in the state of California has sued Activision Blizzard, one of the largest American video game developers and publishers in the world, for discrimination and the violation of the FEHA, the Fair Employment and Housing Act. In the case, the department is demanding injunctive and monetary relief and damages. The DFEH is, quote, a state agency tasked with investigating and prosecuting civil rights actions.
So specifically here, the case seeks, quote, relief in the public interest for the state and for defendants' female employees through a variety of retaliatory measures. Those include, quote, compensatory and punitive damages, unpaid wages, injunctive, declaratory, and equitable relief, prejudgment interest, and, of course, attorney's fees.
That's a result of a 2-year investigation conducted by the DFEH, the results of which were presented to Activision Blizzard on June 24th.
Yeah, okay, so to try to cram everything they're claiming into one sentence, which is pretty gross because there's a lot. The DFEH, quote, found evidence that defendants, i.e. Activision Blizzard, discriminated against female employees in terms and conditions of employment, including compensation, assignment, promotion, termination, constructive discharge, and retaliation.
And it gets worse. The DFEH also found that male employees sexually harassed female employees, and Activision Blizzard ignored the situation repeatedly.
Activision Blizzard is also being accused of violating Section 1197.5 of the Labor Code by paying female employees less than males for, quote, substantially similar work.
Yeah, interestingly, the DFEH tried to resolve the issue privately with Activision Blizzard last month before resorting to litigation. However, the parties could not, quote, resolve the administrative complaints.
So before we go any further, we're gonna cover the news. We need to let you know that this case discusses instances of sexual assault from Activision Blizzard employees directly. We're not going to poke over all the details of those instances. Also, the legal filing is public if you want to see the full thing. But out of respect to those affected, we're just going to we're going to talk about it because it's relevant to the story, but we're not going to go into the full details of what happened in any specific instance.
So it gets really, really heavy. So you may want to just pull up a cute puppy video, have it ready to go after this as a palate cleanser, because this just reminds you that, boy, some people are real, real shitty.
So here we go. Again, keep that puppy video in the holster. So the filing describes horrific acts of sexual harassment, with the DFEH explaining that the company's, quote, frat boy office environment included, quote, cube crawls, where, quote, male employees drink copious amounts of alcohol as they crawl their way through various cubicles in the office and often engage in inappropriate behavior towards female employees.
Former senior creative director for World of Warcraft, Alex Afrasiabi, would touch and sexually interact with female employees at BlizzCon to the point where supervisors had to, quote, intervene and pull him off female employees.
Yeah, the DFEH also noted that his suite during the event was nicknamed the Cosby Suite, after Bill Cosby, who is, of course, known for sexual assault allegations in recent years.
What the fuck? Male employees would come to work hungover and play video games, while female employees were given their workloads, all while male employees casually threw around sex and rape jokes.
Most tragically of all, and this is the real hard one, one female employee even committed suicide after a male supervisor brought butt plugs and lube with them as they went on a business trip together.
Somehow it gets even worse, as prior to the death, male coworkers were sharing a picture of her vagina at a holiday party. This makes me so upset. This just makes me so upset.
Male management often placed female employees in lower level positions, withheld promotions, and would offer male contractors and part-time workers full-time roles, sometimes years before female contractors and part-time workers would get the same offer.
One female employee was denied pay raise despite taking on more responsibilities because, quote, she might get pregnant and like being a mom too much.
Pregnant women in the office would be given negative evaluations while on maternity leave, called out for leaving work to pick up their children, and removed from lactation rooms so they could be used for meetings.
The filing specifically mentions that women of color, particularly African American women, experienced a special brand of discrimination. Male supervisors would check in on them during their breaks, while their male counterparts were playing video games, and even forced them to write a one-page summary explaining why they needed to request time off of work.
As you'd expect, the filing does say that employees did speak to human resources regarding their issues. However, nothing of significance came from it, to the point where, quote, employees were further discouraged from complaining as human resource personnel were known to be close to the alleged harassers.
HR continuing to not do anything since time was time. Why break the streak now, right, Lawrence?
They don't want to get up and like have to erase the number off the chalkboard.
I have seen that personally so many times, Lawrence. I cannot tell you how many times.
It's sad to see it, and then also to live through it when you desperately need help and somebody is just everything about their soul and their job is just designed to not provide it to the company that like you've worked for and contributed money and work effort to. The reason I'm saying that, and this is sort of a personal side note, I have personally spoken with many current and former Activision Blizzard employees. I can personally say all of these claims add up for me. It actually all sounds characteristic and in keeping with what I've heard. I can't say anything specific because this is a lawsuit, and doing that would, well, I can't even say why, what saying that would do. But point is, like, just speaking personally from my own perspective, this all sounds pretty on the nose.
Activision Blizzard has since issued a statement regarding these allegations saying, quote, "There's no place in our company or industry or any industry for sexual misconduct or harassment of any kind. We take every allegation seriously and investigate all claims."
The company continues, quote, "The DFEH includes distorted and in many cases false descriptions of Blizzard's past. Even still, Activision Blizzard claims they have been, quote, extremely cooperative with the DFEH's investigation and that, quote, the picture the DFEH paints is not the Blizzard workplace of today."
Naturally, they claim that employees regularly do anti-harassment training and, here's the weird part, have done so for many years. The company finishes their response stating, quote, "It is a shame that the DFEH did not want to engage with us on what they thought they were seeing in their investigation."
Following the news story, many former female employees of Activision Blizzard spoke out regarding their experiences at the company. This is the way things tend to go. One woman who goes by Alex Frostwolf on Twitter shared that her boss gaslit her so badly that her hair started falling out, and that she was told she was underperforming, so her profit share was lowered. After going to HR about the issue, she was told, maybe you are underperforming. So that's cool.
Another alum of the company, Stephanie Krutzik, who was at Blizzard from 2006 to 2020, that's 14 years, shared that she was a victim of Afrasiabi at BlizzCon in 2013, adding, quote, "Most of my coworkers were wonderful, talented people who cared about quality games, and some weren't. The problem was the lack of accountability."
Very well said. Krutzik also reminds everyone that, quote, "If you think this is just a Blizzard thing, you are mistaken. This is the industry, especially before 2015 or so."
At Alaymore frankly describes the process of trying to talk to someone, posting, quote, "I spoke about my experience twice. Both men, neither one believed me. The second time, I learned not every voice matters."
Mark Kern, a former team lead for World of Warcraft in the early 2000s, relayed on his Twitter account that he was removing all Blizzard credentials from his bio. Saying, quote, "I boycotted Blizzard games over a year ago. This latest news was the last straw for me. Time to look forward."
Hopefully everyone involved can do that to some degree now.
At least this is a step, and from the sounds of those affected, it seems like this has been overdue for a very long time.
Yeah, this is a rather exceptional move. One of the first of its kind, actually.
So state and federal governments don't really get involved with games companies very much. Every time they come close, it becomes this huge ordeal, but it very rarely actually happens. There are only really a few isolated examples.
Yeah, the case itself is just disgusting. But legally speaking, there really is no precedent for this in the gaming world at all.
Yeah, there are only a few instances of U.S. government institutions suing game companies ever.
The Los Angeles Attorney's Office sued Rockstar Games all the way back in 2006 over the hot coffee controversy, which I'm sure we all remember, where the game contained an inaccessible minigame involving sex.
It's actually kind of hard to find out what happened to that lawsuit, the one that Los Angeles, or the city of Los Angeles filed. But Rockstar Games did eventually settle a class action suit in 2008 that entitled, quote, "All U.S. citizens who were offended by the event up to $35.
The only other example we could find of a government agency investigating a game maker occurred in 2012 when Rhode Island State pressed charges against 38 studios over defaulted loan payments shortly after the company went bankrupt.
Yeah, that suit finally settled in February 2017. I mean, it eventually involved the Security and Exchanges Commission. That one got weird. But 5 years, I mean, the wheels of justice turn slowly sometimes.
And it's really hard for people who have gone through traumatic events to have to watch those happen and relive that stuff over and over and over and over. That's never good for repairing trauma. Perhaps most similar to Blizzard Entertainment, Riot Games was also sued in November 2018. However, that was a class action suit and not brought by a state agency.
Yeah, that might be our closest reference here, though. There are very similar claims in both cases: sexual harassment, frat boy culture, a specific lack of opportunity provided to women.
Yeah, that suit settled in 2019 with Riot Games agreeing to pay $10 million to the named class of about 1,000 women that worked at Riot Games in the past 6 years.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, and our turnaround time for the show is pretty tight, so we don't have one on retainer, unfortunately. But it seems really similar to that suit. Potentially minus the punitive intent of the state of California if they want to really make a statement here and like go for big damages. But given how the Riot Games case ended up, it's pretty easy to see Activision Blizzard eventually settling this several years down the road for, a grip of a few $1 million to pay out those affected. It'll come too little and too late, as usual.
That's unfortunately justice in America. You might get sexually harassed at work every day, but maybe in 20 years you can get a payout if you expose yourself to online harassment, as I'm sure you've seen in those women's Twitter accounts, and spend all your free time participating in a legal fight.
There's really not a winning prospect there, unfortunately, and that's kind of the problem. It's kind of how the system is set up. So Activision Blizzard will most likely cut a check to make all this go away eventually, but what I'm curious about is whether or not this lawsuit will have ripple effects in the business, in the state of California, things like that.
In terms of games culture, we've been hearing for years how gaming and tech generally is a bastion for male whiteness. Now even state agencies are getting involved and actively suing.
So potentially, with any luck, this will lead to more widespread belief and awareness that there is a problem there, even if it requires believing in one that you personally haven't observed, one of those kinds of things. But at least now we have an agency that did an investigation, published findings, and is actively pursuing it, saying, yeah, this is a real problem.
Yeah, there has been a sea change over the last couple of years, of course, with Me Too and that sort of thing. So it's good. Obviously, it's taking way too long, but we're getting there slowly but surely. Beyond that, you've got to imagine that other game development companies are starting to sweat a little bit, as they should.
Yeah, when you hear
if this environment exists in your workplace, they should definitely be sweating.
Yeah, every single one. Yeah, you can hear the skeletons just rattling like crazy in the closet. So, I mean, to that point, Ubisoft in particular has been the target of several reports lately of workplace abuses, including sexual misconduct and racial favoritism regarding raises and promotions.
They have an operating office in San Francisco too, meaning the state of California might smell another eventual settlement come knocking on that door.
Yeah, there's a lot of game companies that have offices in California, not necessarily all headquartered here. So yeah, maybe the state of California will appoint itself a new watchdog of a new industry and go around just slicing off heads in gaming here. Who knows? Admittedly, though, the situation is a bit different, like I mentioned, since Ubisoft is headquartered in France, while Activision Blizzard is headquartered in, or at least they operate, out of sunny Irvine, California.
Technically, Activision Blizzard is headquartered in Delaware, but nearly every big corporation is for tax shelter purposes and those sorts of things. So.
Yeah, it was a weird day when I found out that Machinima was headquartered in Delaware. It was like, they actually rent out like single room offices that are just like 5 square feet that you can rent to have your company headquartered there, but you actually operate somewhere else entirely. It's delightful.
So Lawrence, I was a part of a class action suit that was not sexual harassment based. It was just kind of the overtime based here in California a long time ago. A bunch of producers from Attack of the Show got together and sued Comcast. We did that. This was 2012, I want to say. It's one of those things where I may have talked about this on content before, but I realized going through that process, because the payout was very, very low according to actually how much we were owed for our overtime. I realized that most companies wait for there to be a fire and then put out the fire. And the reason they do that is because for the years that they don't have to deal with it, they don't lose any money. And when they don't lose any money, obviously they're still operating fine, right? So I'm sure Activision Blizzard knew about their terrible workplace for years and years and years. Obviously they did, because it was being reported. And instead of trying to fix it or fire the people that were the actual problem, they just sat on it because that makes them more money, right? They don't have to contribute resources to it. And then they wait for all this to blow up, and then they do something. So that really, I think it kind of enlightened me to the way corporations work. Some not all corporations, but most corporations work. I would imagine in America and around the world.
Yeah, when the corporate response that Activision Blizzard put out to me really did drive home just how corporate it all is. And that's silly because Activision Blizzard is a huge company, but Bruce, to your point, like you were saying, yeah, they're going to do as little as possible. And that includes, like, if you ever have to do sensitivity training, it's so that years down the line, your company can say, but we made everyone do sensitivity training. I don't think anyone, well, maybe there are some lucky people out there who had a revolution of empathy by filling out a form telling somebody how they felt about, I don't know, a poem or something. But I feel like, yeah, often it's just jumping through legal hoops. So later, when you do get sued, because you figured you might someday, you can look back and say, but we did sensitivity training. We made all these changes. That thing is worded so gross because they are just trying to defend themselves now, and that's what it is. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. The work product they got out of people is far more valuable than what they'll have to repay in some lump sum. And it's also like 10 years down the road. Money 10 years from now doesn't matter. Money now is what matters. So, gosh, it's just bleh. It's just all gross.
It's disgusting, and I know a lot of people are always like, well, what's the solution? The solution is to root out the problem. If those people are getting reported like that, you get rid of them. I mean, that is the solution. But again,
yeah, root them out early and then make it painful on the tail end.
That's right. And when there's a lot of bureaucracy in a company, it's not easy to get rid of somebody who's been there for years and years and years and who's a fucking, top VP or whatever else. So that is not easy, and that's one of those things that I've seen. But hell, chop off their heads, get rid of them.
Man, Bruce needs to be CEO of America.
If I heard that shit, I'd be like, are you fucking kidding me? If I was the CEO of this company, I'd be like, you're gone. You're out of here. That's ridiculous.
I don't know. I can't fathom another way that goes down, but apparently it does all the time. It's outrageous.